Lee County Parks and Recreation. Then we're going to have an update from the nominating committee, excuse me, by Debbie Memely. Helen is going to give us a status report on the survey we're doing for community input about our issues. And then finally, Jeff Waller is going to give us a brief update on what's happening with the Doppler Radar Tower proposed by WINK News.
I do have a treasurer's report.
Thank you, Sherry. We'll do that.
At the end is fine.
Okay, that sounds good. So, Mr. Lavender, would you like to start us off this evening? Thanks for talking to us.
Yeah, no problem. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jesse Lavender. I'm the Lee County Parks and Recreation Director, and I'm here to serve you and everybody else in Lee County. And started with
you running around making all that noise.
Okay, wait a minute.
We're going to go ahead and mute everybody else. Jesse, hang on.
Good.
Mr. Andres and then Mr. Wilkinson asked that I speak a little bit about what's going on with both the pickleball courts at Phillips Park and the improvements to the Pine Island Commercial Marina. So I'll start with the pickleball courts at Phillips Park. If you weren't aware, the lot next to the garden club on the corner there, we purchased about a little over a year ago, and we've had a pretty significant group of pickleball players that have wanted their own space out there, and pickleball is a growing sport throughout the state, really, and we're always looking for ways to accommodate those folks. And if any of you are pickleball players, we recently got the lot rezoned and passed through the hearing examiner to allow for that use. And we're going to be selecting a contractor to do consulting services first, and then we'll be doing construction. Hopefully we can do a consultant that also does the construction as well. And we look to get that done before the end of this year. So if any of you are pickleball players, I encourage you to come out, and hopefully we can get this done as soon as possible. There is going to be 3 courts there. That looks to be about what is allowed, and I'm not really familiar with how to share screens, but I'll try and show this as best I can. And if I can email anybody the concept plan that I've got, I will gladly do that. I'll probably send it over to Mr. Wilkinson and Mr. Andres tomorrow to distribute to the group. But that's what's going on with Phillips Park.
Jesse, can I interrupt you a second? Do you have that map that you just showed on your computer somewhere? Because it's quite easy to share the screen. I can walk you through it if you want.
I can do that, yeah.
Okay, so you just pull it up on your screen behind the pictures of our faces.
Oh, hang on. I'm this email is vaulted, so let me.
Oh, okay. Maybe it doesn't matter.
I can post it on our website tomorrow. Jesse, I'll send you an email, and if you can send it to me, I'll get it up there when I post the meeting.
Yeah, I will gladly do that. That'd probably be the easiest way to do things.
Okay. All right.
Any questions on the Phillips Park pickleball courts?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. One is about parking and the other is about bathrooms, because these are issues that a few people are talking about. Okay. The bathroom issue, as I understand it, there's access to the regular bathrooms only when, only during certain hours, but not at all times. And then the porta potty that's there is a little rough, it's like people don't really like to use it. So I'm wondering if there can be something worked out so that at the times when the pickleball people are playing, they have access to some kind of reasonable bathrooms.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I was unaware of that, and I will gladly address that.
Okay, great.
Definitely a concern, and I'll look into it and see what can be done. And you know, there's a lot that we can do on this site, this whole parks campus, if you will, at Phillips Park. So if there's a potential need to put permanent restrooms in the future, and we need to look at, you know, some of the roadways that aren't really utilized anymore, like Sesame Drive and things like that, or Park Lane, whatever, to kind of rezone those so that we can add pathways and have restroom sites available, then we'll definitely look into that.
Okay, that's great. The other thing is about parking. I mean, there's parking there for the rest of the facilities on that, in that whole park there.
Mhm.
And I don't know the numbers of people that would be using pickleball courts at one time. I kind of don't think this will be an issue, but it seems like there ought to be some kind of a count of, you know, where people could park.
Well, I've already,
full.
well, as with any development order, our community development folks with Lee County are going to mandate that I supply parking. So
Oh, okay.
um, that there's a whole guideline and kind of a document that I have to adhere to. So this concept plan doesn't show parking, but that's because that's to come through the design process.
So there will be additional parking along with the pickleball
Well,
court?
yes, and it might be roadside parking where we carve out, you know, some you know, parallel parking type spots or something. Either way, we know that we're going to have to add additional parking.
Oh, okay, I see.
Any other questions about the
Are
pickleball?
there lights on the court?
Currently, there hasn't been a demand for lights, but that's something that we can address in the future. I was really looking at getting these up and running as soon as possible. And then if there's a need, absolutely we'll plan for that and put lights up. But the groups that have, you know, come across my desk have been playing in the morning, so I don't know that there's a sufficient need for nighttime play. And if there is, absolutely we'll accommodate.
Where'd you go to school, may I ask?
Well, I'm a local Fort Myers boy, and I spent
Oh, great.
most of my weekends in Pine Island. So I
That's
went,
just cool.
yeah,
School of Hard Knocks, huh?
Yeah.
I was actually close friends with Randy Wayne White, and for those of you that know him, and
Yeah.
not close friends with him, but his sons. And I
Okay.
spent a lot of time in Colonel Randell's pasture,
Yeah.
and
All right.
all over the place. So,
Uh-huh.
but I did get my bachelor's degree at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, where I also caught on the baseball team.
Uh-huh.
Good.
So if there's no more questions about Phillips Park, I'll go into the Pine Island Commercial Marina improvements.
Okay.
For those of you that don't know, this is actually the third and final phase of a project that's been going on for about 5 years now or more. The first few phases of the project were to fix up the boat ramp, fix the docks that face out towards Demery Key, and fix the barge landing for the you know, the barges that come in and bring the garbage from the outer islands. So this phase, which was not completed about 5 years ago, is what we're looking to do now, and that is dredging the canal that comes all the way down towards the entrance to the driveway there, and replace the finger docks, replace the seawall, add some ADA trailer spots and a pathway. And really that's what it consists of, because we're not going to pave the entire area there. We intend to get this done. This helps us accommodate as everybody that we can at this site, both on the weekends and during the commercial use during the week.
Okay, Jesse, I want to interrupt again. I'm sorry. People want to know, where is this marina exactly?
It's at the end of Maria Drive.
Oh, yeah.
If you go
You know,
left,
Maria Drive is on the way down to St. James City.
Mhm.
On the right, as you go down from the four-way, and you turn right and you go out to the end there.
Yes.
It's the first right before the Moose Club. That's the easiest way to find it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So along with that, we pretty much have everything in place. It's going to cost about $700,000. We're ironing out some details with the fire marshal out there on the island, and hopefully we'll be able to come to a compromise. He's wanting us to have a pipeline connection, water main connection to the end of Maria Drive there. Unfortunately, that's going to cost more than the project is at this point. So we're trying to work out a compromise to where we can dig a well and supply sufficient water should there be a fire or things of that nature. And for those of you, I'm a Parks and Rec director. I'm not a fire marshal. Everything that's been permitted out there, there's fire extinguishers on every single finger dock. So I don't, know where this is coming from, but we are trying to coordinate things with the fire marshal so that we can get the permit to start working on this. And for those of you who've never been out to Pine Island Commercial Marina, there's 17 wet slips there. And I think 14 of them are booked now, but that's a yearly rental. All the information is available on the website if you're interested in getting a wet slip there. And this is the only commercial marina that Lee County owns. And this is a prime location, which is why the county purchased it back in 2001 from the Fishermen's Cooperative that was out there at that time. And for those of you that have been in Lee County for a while, yes, that was my father that purchased that land, and he did work for the county for 35 years. I get questioned all the time if I'm Jim Lavender, but I'm not. I'm his son. So I have a lot of knowledge of that area as well. So I'm open to any questions that you may have about this project. And if I may, if there's no questions, I can give you a couple other things, updates on the island that involve Parks and Rec.
I do have a question.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Okay, hi, Jamie DeLacy. Question for you. You had mentioned something about there being a discrepancy with the fire marshal based on a potential fire hydrant or lack of water. If the permitting, if there's a problem with it, or if there's a delay in construction, who's going to incur the cost if you have to move forward with the project with repiping it or digging the well? Are we responsible for that cost?
No, this is all funded through impact fees and regional park dollars. There's very little straight tax base to you directly on the island. This incorporates all of Lee County. And I can't really answer who's going to pay that cost. Ultimately, if we don't come to a compromise, we're going to have to wait to do this work until the funds are available.
Okay, thank you.
Will there be any changes to parking?
Not at this
Pretty busy
time.
grant. Okay.
Yeah, not at this time. Obviously, the space is limited there, and we can only do as much as we, that the land allows. So other than expanding the island, we can't really add any additional parking.
Are there plans to Or is there space to add additional dock space?
No, the 17 that are there is what's going to remain. We still have to have space in that canal for the side barge landing zone, as well as a couple of the other ferries that go in and out of there.
And do you have anything to do with beaches in Lee County?
I have everything to do with beaches in Lee County.
Yay.
That's what I thought. Why
Alright.
doesn't the area tell me where it is, guys,
Tropical
where we've been
Point.
testing the water?
Tropical
Tropical
Point.
Point.
Mhm.
Why can we not get Lee County to test that water?
I can't answer that. That's, we've tested it a couple times, but that's not an area that is normally tested. Typically, the Department of Health is responsible for testing all the water beach sites in Lee County. Natural Resources Department for Lee County helped out a couple times with some field trips out in that area, but it's not some place that is frequented enough for the Department of Health to warrant testing.
Yeah, however, it actually is frequented a lot
Absolutely.
more than you might think. And this is the problem because, in the hot weather, parents bring their small children down there and the kids are up to their neck in the water. And then, of course, there are field trips and from the school. And sometimes, kids are also in the water with their nets and, learning about the estuary. So some of the time that the GPICA has tested there's been significant fecal matter in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And so numbers of people on Pine Island are really quite concerned about this. And since it's the only so-called beach that we have, that's where people would end up going to get themselves in the water. They're also launching kayaks from there, in which case, you have to walk through it. So we would really, it's been very difficult for the GPICA just to take over the testing. It's expensive, and more than that, as you probably know, you collect the water and then it's got to be driven quite a number of miles immediately somewhere else, and this is difficult for volunteers to do. So we really feel that this is something that the county ought to take responsibility for.
Okay.
And we also feel that there should be a sign posted that indicates to people that this is generally not a safe place for children to swim, a warning.
Yeah, when we test the water, it's past the swim
Well, we can't continue to financially or time-wise continue to monitor that.
Okay.
Can we get a sign?
I can look into it. That's about what I would do with all your concerns you've just addressed. Okay.
Okay, that'd be really helpful, Jesse.
Yes.
Because this has been a concern of a lot of people for some time now. And we'd love it if there was some movement on the part of the county.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have one more question for him for another project of yours real quick. Are you guys overseeing Lavender's Landing off of Barrancas?
Yes, we are.
Okay, because I assume by your last name that you had something to do with the name change. But anyways, I was just curious what you guys plan on doing with that.
Well, let me clarify. That was the Board of County Commissioners that honored my father by naming that place Lavender's Landing.
Nice.
We do plan on major updates to the cottages and the main structure, and getting a contracted vendor in to rent the cottages out. Parks and Recreation has gone under, through my direction, a reorganization to where you know, there's been quite a bit of issue with parking illegally and things coming from that boat ramp the past year. So I have repositioned some of my staff to where they will be actually officed there in that location. So that will happen first, and we're working with the design firm right now on what needs to be remodeled, what needs to be ripped out. Those are some old structures that still have copper piping and really aren't appealing to the visitors coming to them. So rather than, you know, having, you know, I go down the Everglades all the time, but rather than have an Everglades City fishing shack, we are going to renovate them hopefully in the near future so that, you know, bring them up to the current times that we have and make them more appealing for our visitors.
So Jesse, this is on Barrancas and what's the cross
Missouri?
street there?
Is it Missouri?
Yeah, it's Barrancas in Missouri. I live right down the street, and ever
Okay,
since,
yeah.
you know, like the traffic going there is just hellacious in the morning. I mean, I don't know how they're gonna remodel it to facilitate the increase in traffic that it might generate.
Well, that's something that we're going to undergo, and you know, if there's a circumstance where we need to remove a cottage or things like that, we're going to definitely look into all avenues that we have available.
Thank you.
No problem.
Let's see, were there other projects you wanted to talk about that you guys are working on the island?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention two items. Number one being, for those of you that are familiar with our conservation program and the preserve lands, Pine Island is home to numerous of these parcels, and we are doing an evaluation of all our conservation preserves to see if there can be additional trail systems added to them. So being that Pine Island has quite a few of the preserves, we are looking to expand some pathways and trail systems throughout the preserves on Pine Island to give both the public and our visitors more access to walk and enjoy the nature and wildlife out there.
Do you have representatives from the Calusa Land Trust or GPICA on that planning committee?
No, we do not. We do coordinate with them and do speak with them frequently, but they aren't on the planning committee. We're looking at basically what we can do permitting wise and things like that. And, you know, I'd love to speak with them about that, but at the end of the day, it's what we can and cannot do on these preserve lands that ultimately decides whether a trail goes in or it doesn't.
Is that the land across from Flamingo Bay or Pine Island Cove?
Well, you have quite a few, so that's not just it. And that I should also note that, you know, some of these parcels that we own are just, there's a few near Smokehouse Bay, a little bit north of like the Carter parcel up there. It's north of Pineland Marina. Those contain some old mosquito ditches. In our restoration efforts, some of those ditches will be filled in, but we hope to keep some so that you can paddle a kayak through there. You know, there's some really nice mangrove tunnels back in there. So we can hopefully add to the paddling
Big
trail
Jim
system.
Creek.
Yeah.
That's Big Jim Creek up there. Is that right?
Well, it's just to the south of Big Jim
To the
Creek.
south.
Okay.
Where's
All
the
right.
launch point for that?
It would be what we call Pine Island Monument, which is at
Yeah,
Pineland
okay.
Waterfront Drive.
Yeah, okay.
Or Pineland Marina would
Yeah,
be.
right.
Right.
So we are looking at adding trails, both hiking and paddling,
Okay.
to our inventory. The other thing that, you know, some are aware of is we purchased a conservation tract of land just south of the Winn-Dixie. South of the Winn-Dixie,
Yeah.
which, you know, there was a little bit of feedback about solid waste purchasing 15 acres of that
Mhm.
on their own. That was not purchased with conservation money, but solid waste purchased that on their own. And to make it more amenable to you and everybody else, one of the needs that's been expressed to me over the years is having an off-leash dog park on the island. And we are looking at having a dual purpose for that 15 acres to where it can be utilized in the event of a hurricane as a debris management site, but for majority of the year and years, hopefully, that we don't get another hurricane, it will be utilized as an off-leash dog park in place for people to walk around. We do plan on adding trails to the preserve that's just across the fence line from this tract of land. So you'll be able to park, you'll be able to take your dog off leash, throw the ball to it. And if you want to walk the trail system that's to come in the future, you'll also be able to park in this lot.
And is this also going to be fenced in?
Yes.
How many acres do they think they're going to fence in?
It won't be 15. Typically our dog parks are anywhere from an acre and a half or less.
And
And I
what's the
noticed when they
completion date
were-
on that?
We're working on relocating and doing what's necessary to do some site improvements. There's some gopher tortoise burrows there, so we're working with our field agents to kind of address those issues and see what else needs to be done before we get into design and permitting of that lot.
Will you have a water source so that there'll be water for dogs?
It's gonna be consistent with every dog park we have, and yes, there are water bowls, special little fountains for the dogs to drink out of, and all that good stuff. Shade will also be a necessity out there for the summer and things like that.
Porta potty?
We're gonna address that through the design process. I'm sure there will be not a porta potty, but hopefully an actual two family style restrooms there.
Good. That's awesome.
Awesome.
So the thought that this will be used if another hurricane comes through and that's where all the debris is going to be put on our island, how long is that debris going to be able to stay there before it's removed?
I'll just tell you, I'm not an expert in this. That's more of the solid waste realm of things after hurricane, but I was heavily involved in Hurricane Irma. Typically that debris has been removed within a month from that site. Again, the idea is to get all the streets cleared, get all the debris collected from the residents so they don't have it at the end of their street causing a public safety issue, getting it to this location, getting it processed, and then getting it out of there. They're pretty good at moving swiftly through that. And I don't see any different on Pine Island.
So we don't see it sitting there for 6 months after a hurricane.
No, you won't. You definitely won't see it for 6 months. You didn't
Good.
see it back during Irma for 6 months. So.
Okay.
Jesse, this is Jeff Waller. I had a question about I'll say park right up by Bosilla Island condos. There's a bunch of cottages that look rather run down there. I don't know if that's a Lee County or a state park or what. Can you tell me a little more about that?
That's actually the landing zone for Costa, or it was.
Yeah.
I believe it still is. That was called the Judd Creek Cottages, and you used to be able to rent those.
Right.
I actually had I think it was my 10th birthday there. Yeah, those are.
I thought I saw your initials carved on a cottage there. So
Those are run down and abandoned. So you'd have to talk to the state of Florida about that. I'm not.
There's a
familiar.
state park though.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. Can you launch there kayaks if you want? Are you allowed to?
Again, I'm not familiar with what the allowable uses are there. You'd have to contact the state, maybe call somebody over on Costa.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Jesse?
Thank you.
John, it sounds like John Connolly is trying to speak. John, you're muted. Can you unmute?
Okay.
There we go.
There you
How's
go.
that?
Yep.
Good.
Hey, figured it out. Hey, Jesse, John Connolly here. I have a question. I'm wondering, are there any plans for any off-road or mountain biking trails on the island?
Right now, no. That's something that we are looking into with the trail system. So it could be coming. Mountain bike trails are difficult. Some people want ups and downs, loop-de-loops and all that, like we have kind of in the eastern part of the county where the old spoil sites from the Caloosahatchee River are, like at Caloosahatchee Regional Park. I don't see us being able to add those type of amenities to a mountain bike trail. So it might just be that it's a trail that you're riding on. So, you know, Pine Island's kind of flat unless you get into, you know, the Randall Research Center and the Native American Indian mounds and things like that. So
No.
it's Florida. I mean, you know, I got to be honest.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Flat is okay. But if
Yeah.
there, as long as there are trails where bikes are allowed, that's great.
Yeah, well, I will definitely look into that. I ride almost every week. So I'll definitely look into that. Some of the problems that we face with mountain bike trails is the sugar sand from the natural environment. So we'll definitely look into all that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I walk my dog, or we walk our dog in St. James City all the time. And just from talking to folks, it seems like there's a real need for a dog park on Pine Island. So we were very glad to hear about those plans.
Well, believe it or not, Mr. Staley, this all started when they cleared that lot right when you come into Pine Island, and somebody thought that we were building a dog park there, and a bunch of people sent me all kinds of inquiries, as well as the Board of County Commissioners. So we're on top of it, and I'm glad this opportunity presented itself to we can, you know, provide the citizens the best use for, you know, there was a need for a debris management site, but, you know, I stepped in and said, you're not going to use that unless there's a hurricane. So why can't we use it as an off-leash dog park for majority of the year?
That's great.
You have a dog park for the small dogs and the big dogs?
That's correct. That's our standard
Okay.
throughout the county.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jesse. We totally appreciate you hanging out with us tonight. And I'll send you an email to follow up with you on a couple of documents.
That sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Everybody
very
enjoy
much.
your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All righty. The next item on our agenda tonight is nominating committee report from Debbie Memely.
Okay, so the committee nominates the following members of the to be directors on the GPICA board: Helen Fox, Tim Heights, Debbie Memely, Mike Sweeney, and Scott Wilkerson. At this point, if anyone else would like to join the nominees, this is the time that you would tell us that you would like to join the board of directors.
Would you just repeat the names again, please?
Sure. Helen Fox, Tim Heights,
Okay.
Debbie Memely, Mike Sweeney, and Scott Wilkerson.
Thanks.
And just to fill in, Helen, Tim, Scott, and of course, Debbie are all current members of the board. And who are obviously.
Now Mike Sweeney right here.
And Mike is the new one.
Right here.
Any nominations from the floor? We take self-nominations. Join us.
I just thank the people for continuing to serve and thank Mike for his willingness to come along.
Yes,
Did
welcome,
anybody
Mike.
tell him what he's in store for?
I've attended tons of meetings. I know what
Okay,
goes
good,
on,
you know.
and yes, I know. And I think it's great what you do. And, you know, I'm happy to be part of it. I hope I can
Welcome.
live up to
I
it.
would just like to say this is an amazing group of people to work with. I have enjoyed every moment of it. You know, we've had our community issues that had our ups and downs, but I just think that everyone thinks differently and I can appreciate that. And, you know, I had a lot of ups and downs myself in 2020, lost my mom, almost lost my dad in December, and you guys were always there to support me. And I just really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jamie.
All right, next up on our agenda is Helen, who's going to give us an update. You've probably seen the emails, but if you haven't, check out our website. We're conducting a survey to get community interest, to get information on community priorities, and Helen's going to tell us about that.
Okay, I'm just trying to bring up my text here. All right, so as most of you know, at a presentation for the GPICA general membership in December of last year, the newly elected Lee County Commissioner, Kevin Ruane, agreed to work with us on issues that concern residents of Greater Pine Island. Accordingly, the GPICA board created a survey that asks respondents to name 3 issues or up to 3 issues that concern them most and the reasons that they do. The survey has been up on the GPIC website since mid-December and is still gathering information. We're delighted to report tonight that many of our residents have already responded to the survey and that their responses have been rich and interesting. So far, about 110 people have responded and each has named up to 3 issues. So we've gathered over 250 concerns. Many of these responses fall into 4 or 5 general categories, and the rest are scattered among a variety of issues. We'll report on the results in detail at our general meeting in February. Since the GPICA.org website is still accepting responses, we want to encourage you to take the survey if you haven't already done so, and to ask your island friends and neighbors to respond as well. By next month's general meeting, we'll have a good, strong sampling of what people think. And at that time, we'll present a summary of those responses and discuss moving forward. That is my report for now.
All right. Any
Thank you,
questions?
Helen and Nadine, for setting that up and doing that.
Yeah.
And the link to take the survey is gpica.org/survey. You can also find a link to it on our homepage. All righty, and moving along, how about Jeff Waller? We'd like an update on what's happening with the Doppler Tower.
All right, I'm going to try and share a screen here. You have it?
Nope, not yet.
To hit share.
There we
Here
go.
it's come.
Coming, yes.
I'm going to get my slideshow. All right. So I'm going to do a quick update on what's happening with the Doppler Radar Tower. And already I'm having difficulty advancing it. Oh, maybe I have to go onto the screen here. Sorry.
There we go.
Yep. So I'm going to quickly get a refresher on key issues, an updated timeline, some meteorological support we've got, proposed county meeting, some additional contacts that have been made, new contacts, Stringfellow Road view that I'd like you to see, a potential Pine Island Eagle ad, and next steps, and then contact information. So first of all, refresher. I know there's some new faces here, but I'll just quickly hit a couple bullet points here. WINK, Fort Myers Broadcasting Company, is looking for an exception for a proposed Doppler radar tower that will exceed the current 90-foot or 90 feet limit for Lee County. And there's 2 variance requests that relate to Pine Island. One is the 45-foot height limitation, This would be 110 feet, and use of a lattice antenna instead of a monopole antenna. Also, the Department of Community Development has requested some additional information. They're concerned about how and when information will be formally provided to the various beneficiaries. They're concerned that will only be customers of WINK News that would be the primary beneficiaries. And they were concerned about whether this reflects the coastal rural land use and character of the island, which I know Noel Andrus feels is a major issue. And to that point, the policy 24.44 states that coastal rural future land use is restricted, and there's other restrictions there listed, but the ones that are relevant is restricted to minor commercial development. And that's defined as animal clinics, bait and tackle shops, et cetera. You can see the list there, but I kind of label them as all small mom and pop stores. And I think Noel has said it in prior meetings, one of the purposes was to try and keep people on the island with those facilities available. And I don't see how a 110-foot Doppler tower fits within that definition. So here's the updated timeline. WINK asked for a 30-day extension to get information back to the county zoning and planning department in response to the questions that they asked, and that goes until January 15th. So that's only about 10 days away. Assuming they meet that deadline, then within 15 days or January 30th, the county would make a determination on sufficiency of the application, or if it's not, they send it back for more information. And if it is deemed sufficient, then there would be a hearing that would be scheduled within the next 60 days or by March 30th. I'm not sure they're going to meet the December 15th timeline with the holiday break, et cetera. That may be a stretch. They may be requesting for an additional extension, but time will tell.
Do you mean the January 15th extension?
It was extended from December 15th to January 15th. So they have until January 15th to resubmit additional information that was deemed insufficient by the county. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Right.
So we've got some new meteorological support. Mike and Cindy Rapsick have contacted me through Scott and are very interested in the Doppler project. They are opposed to it. They are Pine Island residents. They just sold a home in St. James City and are looking to build a home in Eagle Lake Estates, which is of concern because it's adjacent to the proposed tower. Mike has an undergrad Bachelor of Science in meteorology. He has 40 years of experience in electrical engineering and meteorology in the military and the National Weather Service. He's been a great source of technology support, and I really appreciate the help that Mike and Cindy have both given us on this, and will continue to do so. The contact since the last meeting is I talked to Cindy Bickford at St. James City. They were going to post the PowerPoint presentation on their site. I haven't seen it yet, but I see there's a new interim president, Diane Horn, who I will contact. I'm waiting for Susan McGuire to get back from Roar, and I'm waiting for John and Marty Kendall to respond on Pine Island Garden Club. I talked to Brian Faulkner at Pine Island Realty. I talked to Mike Shevlin at Century 21. I talked to George Sand at Remax. The latter of major concern to me because he's the realtor of record for Eagle Lake Estates. They weren't aware of the proposal. I have had a follow-up discussion with Brian, not with Mike or George. I have calls into them. And Brian seemed kind of indifferent on the impact. I'm waiting for Junior Gatewood, who's the developer for Eagle Lake Estates, to respond to my message. I've also contacted KOA Campground, Bob and Vicky. I'm awaiting their response to my calls. I did call Kevin Rain, and I did have a very good discussion with Kevin. He's kind of in a fact-finding mode now. Is able to listen, but not conclude at this stage. So he's been very open to trying to understand better what the implications are, and has promised to get back to me. So I was very thankful of his initial openness to listening to some of the issues. And then I did contact the National Weather Service in Tampa Bay, and they indicated that they had been contacted by WINK. They wanted a letter of support from WINK for the proposed radar, but they were unable to do so. They indicated as a federal agency, they cannot give a letter of support, that they will remain neutral on that particular issue. So there's no more information that will be forthcoming from them unless there's some specific scientific question, I suspect, that someone may have. I've had discussions with Noel Andrus, and I certainly appreciate his willingness to listen and help. One of the things that he suggested is that we get a letter from the Greater Pine Island Civic Association. We had a vote, I think it was 29-1 against or opposed to the Doppler Tower, and lay out the reasons for the, or the rationale for the opposition, and then arrange for a meeting with David Loveland, who's the Director of Community Development, Mickey Rozdalski, if I'm pronouncing that name correctly, Community Development Operations, and Michael Jacob, who's a Deputy County Attorney, and Scott, Mike and Cindy, because of the expertise that Mike and Cindy can bring from a meteorological perspective, Lisa and myself, who have been doing a lot of work on this particular item, and then also Deborah Swisher Hicks, who has also been very active in this and on this call. So I'm gonna, in the next steps, you'll see I'll draft a letter for Scott and the General Pine Island Civic Association, and we'll go from there, try to get that meeting set up to basically register our opposition to the proposed Doppler Tower. I'm following up on the non-responses that I referenced previously. I'm also going to contact Jim McLaughlin, who's a former WINK weather forecaster and a Pine Island resident. I don't know where he will come out on this issue. He may just take a neutral approach given his long prior employment there, but at least I will initiate contact. And then I am going to contact NBC2, who does have Doppler coverage. It's not reflected in the WINK proposal, and I'd like to better understand what their coverage is and filling in the gap in Southwest Florida. Here's something I wanted to show you. This is a picture that was in the proposal from WINK, which is a simulated profile of the view from Stringfellow Road at a distance of 300 to 400 feet from the property line, because the proposed site, which with the variances, is 100-foot square, so it's between 300 and 400 feet deep off the roadside property line. Deborah Swisher Hicks went to NBC2 and took a picture there of their tower, which is here. And that's at a distance of exactly 400 feet. And I put a red dot on the top of the tower because that's presumably where the radome would be on roughly a 110-foot tower. This radome here is about 60 feet and about double. I've got maybe 120, but my point is that has a much different profile than the one that is presented here. This looks pretty minuscule.
Yeah, it does.
This is much more in your face, so to speak. So I'm trying to get that ironed out as to what is the true profile of that tower. I'm also proposing, Lisa and I would like to put an ad in the Pine Island Eagle, something like this. You know, are you aware that Fort Myers or WINK is proposing a 1 million watt, 110-foot Doppler radar tower? I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. It's just trying to get their attention and awareness, in spite of the fact that the Pine Island Eagle had a front page article on this following the public forum, of which there are only 9 people that were there. I think because of COVID, and also a very small article in the Pine Island Eagle. What we're finding out in talking to people is a lack of even awareness of the proposed tower. So originally we were going to put an ad with some of the reasons for opposition, but I think there's a need for awareness and make people aware that if they want to be heard, they have to get to the hearing date, which is not set up yet. And then any questions or concerns, we've established a new Gmail account, stopdoppler@gmail.com, so we can field any questions or concerns or requests for additional information that come in. Hopefully with not clogging up our personal emails. Hopefully we get that much attention. So we're willing to fund this on our own in order to get the awareness up in terms of the importance of this issue for Pine Island. And then the next.
I'd be
step-
happy to,
Oh.
I'd be happy to contribute to that fund.
Well, thank you. If others are willing, that's fine, but we are perfectly willing to fund that ad and try and get the awareness up. So let me know if you would like to. You'll have my contact at the bottom of this presentation. So we've got an ad hoc committee, radar, Residents Against Doppler Radar, and we're focusing on 5 areas. And one area that we really need some help on is website administration or communication. I would like to get a website set up where we could post information, my PowerPoint presentation, anything else that we can refer the public to without fielding all the phone calls and emails, and just be a general, information site. I don't have the capability to create a website or maintain it. And so I know that Sherry Perkins at one time was willing to help in the communication area and has suggested some items. I don't know if somebody that has knowledge or skills in the website administration area, but if you do, I would certainly appreciate you getting me their names and I could contact them and determine their interest.
Not at the moment, but I'll get back to you and I'll put
Okay.
my thinking cap
I appreciate it.
on and
Otherwise, we
let-
may just go to a contractor and have them set up a website for us. Okay, next steps, I want to do presentations to other Pine Island organizations that I've listed there. I'm waiting to hear back from those people. I've set up with Dirk Danley Jr., who's in the county zoning, who's been my key contact in this project, for Mike and Cindy Rapsick to discuss some of the meteorological issues with him and their opposition. I'm also trying to set up, and Paulette, I think, is on this meeting, an interview with the Pine Island Eagle with Mike and Cindy. Paulette, I haven't heard back yet, but when I do, I'll let you know. I need help, as I mentioned, set up the informational website. I would also like a contact of somebody that's involved in, I think it's called the Prospect Facebook site. I am not a social media participant, so I don't participate on Facebook, but if there is somebody that you would suggest that might be able to post some information in the Prospect Facebook site, I'd appreciate any contacts there.
Jeff?
Yes.
It's Deborah here. I'm actually one of the moderators for the Prospect, for the original, and they wanted to keep it neutral, just so you know. But you and I could talk more about that later.
Which Deborah is this?
Oh, Swisher Hicks.
Oh, okay. Very good,
Sorry.
Deb. Thanks. Okay, we can talk about that later. I know you've got a couple of sites that you've had people working with you also.
Yeah.
Deborah also, speaking of the devil, is interested in canvassing the Eagle Lake Estate residents to make sure that they understand, that a tower is proposed and what the potential implications are, and if they have a point of view to be at the hearing. And she's also talked about getting a group together to hand out flyers at Winn-Dixie, maybe similar to the draft that I had just shown you for the Pine Island Eagle.
One other thing that I, if I may add to the previous one, if there's anybody who has a great contact for real estate agents or appraisers that would be willing to talk to me regarding the values of the surrounding areas and their impact with the WINK radar, I'd appreciate it.
Jeff, did you say Mike Shevlin did not get back to you, or you have not been able to connect with him yet?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Wait, I spoke to him this afternoon, and
You did,
I may
okay.
have made a mistake. It was Mike Shevlin that was kind of indifferent
Ah,
on the
okay.
whole thing. Brian Faulkner, I'm waiting to hear back from.
Interesting. Okay.
Mike did talk a little bit about, the eagles, the horned owls, and some other things you might be able to do to oppose it. But I asked him about property values, and he wasn't concerned. Deborah, you didn't have the benefit of this presentation before this evening, but down at the bottom, you can see that you're going to follow up on property value impact. And so, as you just said, if somebody has information or a contact that would be helpful, we'd appreciate that.
Thank you.
I will draft a letter for the GPICA to send to Lee County, same audience as that proposed meeting, for Scott to sign and send. I'll try and get that meeting set up. Noel's given me a contact there. I'll continue to monitor the WINK and Morris Depew communication with Lee County. I'm awaiting for responses on a list of questions I sent them back on September 29th. I have talked to Heather Erwiller today, and she is still following up with her client. And I'll continue to liaise with Noel, who's been a tremendous help. And Noel, publicly thank you while you're still on this call, I hope. I certainly appreciate the guidance you've given me. Someone else mentioned a Greg Stewart might be also a valuable contact. I don't know, Noel, if you know Greg or having a point of view on that.
Yeah, I do. I know Greg real well, and I think he would be a good person to see because he has designed a lot of different projects like that. So he would
Okay,
know that.
I'll contact Greg and see what help he can offer us. All right. So this is the contact information for myself and Deb. If you have any questions, comments, or want to discuss further, feel free to email or call. And I mentioned the stopdoppler@gmail.com that we've got set up in order to try and field any questions coming out of ads or flyers or whatever. So that was it.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments from anybody in the meeting?
Well, you certainly done a thorough job.
I was just gonna, Jeff, I'm really impressed by what you've done, and you're taking the bull by the horns and getting after it. So we really appreciate you taking the lead on this project.
Yeah,
I think you've done an outstanding job.
outstanding.
So, Mike, and not Mike Sweeney, but another Mike wants to
Yeah.
give a comment.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead,
Yeah,
Mike.
my name is Mike Rapsick, and this is my wife, Cindy.
Hi.
Oh, we finally put a name with a face.
Hello, Jeff. Nice to finally meet you.
Hi, Mike. Hi, Cindy.
Yeah, I'm a retired meteorologist from the National Weather Service, and I'm opposed to it for a number of reasons. But one thing that I'd like everybody to keep in mind, if they haven't looked at the very thorough job that Jeff has done, but just keep in mind that I have a ton of knowledge in this, and the proposal that is being set forth, I believe that those entities are being very disingenuous, to use a kind word. They're making it look like Pine Island, and specifically Southwest Florida, does not have sufficient radar coverage, and that is blatantly not true. If I were to look at that as a new resident and have zero knowledge of radars and the concept, and specifically being a weather forecaster for the National Weather Service, I would throw up my hands and say, I don't want to live here, or I want nothing to do with this because there's no radar coverage. That's blatantly false. There's tremendous radar coverage that has been in effect for many, many years, many decades. And I think the people that are proposing this are trying to use a scare tactic to get a
What
new
is the
employee for
purpose of them
themselves
putting,
into,
why would they,
one
Mike,
up each other.
Mike, why would they be wanting to develop why would they be wanting to spend money for something that is essentially what you're saying, redundant or useless?
Ratings with another channel.
Whenever somebody asks the question why, it always ends up with money. The answer
Okay,
is
yeah,
money. So,
it all boils down to that.
it would be
Right.
advertising funds or whatever the case may be, higher viewership, if you will. But as I said to Jeff in some of my replies, I think that what they're trying to do is one up each other and to use scare tactics. And I can guarantee you, I was actually working the radar. I was the radar operator when Hurricane Charlie, if anybody remembers Hurricane Charlie, when it was heading just west of Key West. I was in Key West at that time, and I followed it through the late night and early morning hours. And if anybody goes back and looks at the information that is available, that would be a perfect scenario of showing what is available, meaning, there is plenty of coverage available. And if one were to look at this information, you would say, boy, there's nothing here that is covering us. That's not the fact. Far
That was a
from-
relatively small hurricane too, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. It was a glorified
Dimensionally,
tornado, but
Yes.
regardless, yeah, you could
Yeah.
take the physical size of Charlie and put it within the eye of Irma. It
Right.
was a gangbuster of a storm.
Mhm.
It caused a lot of damage, but make no doubt about it, it was always under the eyes of the National Weather Service. The point I was trying to make just a few minutes ago, and it slipped my mind, was
Ratings. You were talking about just basically they're trying to do it for ratings rather than for any kind of extra science or safety.
yes, and keep in mind, like, the point is that the only entity that can give, and I'll use the quotes, a watch, to use the term, a watch or warning in regards to a weather event is the National Weather Service. Any radio, TV, any broadcast system that steps on those words and causes a panic or potentially causes a panic, they're messing with they're walking a fine line with their FCC license. And as a resident of Southwest Florida, I can't watch the TV because they try to one up each other, the personalities, that is, from one station to another, and they won't specifically use the word watch or warning, because those are no-nos, and they know not to do that. As a matter of fact, some of the personalities in Southwest Florida have actually used the word warning, and they were squashed a little bit by the FCC. Don't do that. That is the sole purpose of the National Weather Service. The National Weather Service obviously is paid by taxpayers' funds. And to bounce back to something I said earlier, I think they're being disingenuous with putting forth information, false information, that there's no radar coverage in Southwest Florida. The United States government, when they put in the WSR 88D system, spent billions of dollars to make sure that there is coverage everywhere. Now, are there small spots of the United States that are not covered? Yes, in the Rocky Mountains where nobody lives, way up on the mountaintops. But I can guarantee you, in a state of 20+ million people, that we have radar coverage everywhere. There isn't a need for this radar.
Will you be
Will
willing
you,
to
be able to
testify at the
to
hearing?
that at the hearing?
Sari and I both do the same thing.
Say it again, please.
Will you be willing to go and testify at the hearing when we have one?
When you say testify, yeah, I would, sure.
As an
I would offer
expert,
any of my
as an
knowledge.
expert, yeah.
Sure,
It's not a big deal. We've all done it.
yeah, sure.
Well, what you have to do though, Mike, is if you're going to be an expert, which it seems like you are, you're going to have to really quantify your statements when you go before the hearing examiner, because it's a quasi-judicial proceeding and it's run just like a court of law. So you have to be very precise in everything you say. If you
Well,
want.
I've never been to one either, Mike, so I'm willing to go present my point of view, and we'll all work on this together.
Well,
Joel, couldn't he just present as a resident with background and experience?
Well, I think we really need him. We really need an expert.
Exactly.
I think this is great.
True, but
Absolutely great. If Mike's willing to do this, I'm certainly willing to work with you if you need any additional assistance, but you probably don't. But yeah, if we can go in with an expert witness, we're way ahead of the game.
And it would be helpful if you put it in writing too, so they can follow along while he talks.
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm sorry that the information I have, is not as nice and thorough as Jeff's, but I just met Jeff recently, and as he said, my wife and I just sold in St. James City.
And I track them now.
And but he talked about the residents of Eagle Estates, and that's where we bought property.
Oh, no.
And we did not even know that this tower was proposed, and it's just a couple hundred feet away from the lot that we bought. And that would have thrown up a red flag earlier in the year when we bought that property.
Who sold you the lot? What realtor?
There was no realtor. It was the development.
That's what I'm saying.
But, you know, regardless, and that individual was not trying to be evasive about anything either. But, you know, when I talked to him, after initially talking with Jeff, I ended up talking with him, and he was unaware of anything either. And he just built his home. He just moved into it just a couple months ago in that development. So
Oh, I emailed him, the developer, when that notice came in regarding the meeting, the initial meeting with the residents, and he thanked me for giving him the information.
When was that?
But that was it.
Yeah, that was, when did we have the initial meeting? Was it in June or July or something like that?
The public.
I can send you the email.
Oh,
So
well,
if it matters, I can send it to you.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
it is.
Really doesn't to me. I'm firm in the belief that this is unnecessary, and that the weather personalities, are just using this to one up each other. I do know that one of the weather personalities, not long ago, I retired in 2018, September of 2018. And I think it was about then that one of the TV personalities issued a warning. And now keep in mind that the Lee County is completely covered by the radar and the forecasting office in Tampa Bay. If you go down to Collier County, that's covered by Miami. And if you go offshore of Collier County and Monroe County, that's covered by the National Weather Service in Key West, where I was employed. But regardless, I'm telling you at point blank that I could see storms all the way up on Pine Island by our radar in Key West. The radar that is in Ruskin, Florida, which is the Bay office, can see storms, certainly see any hurricane that's anywhere near Pine Island. And what they're saying in their display or in their information that they're giving out, it's like they're drawing in like to 100 or 120 mile range when it is really close to double that. So there is coverage.
Mike, I want to thank you so much for coming forward, because that's been my contention all along, is that they're just trying to one-upmanship. And somebody with expertise, I really appreciate you keeping in touch with Jeff.
Yeah, and just, keep in mind that, the state of Florida is growing in population. So we're third in population, 20 plus million. California, Texas, we surpassed New York. When they set up, if you go and look at the National Weather Service site and look at their radar coverage and where these are strategically placed, again, the United States government spent your tax dollars, billions of them, to make sure that, quote unquote, every American citizen is covered. And for all intents and purposes, that's true. You don't have to worry about not having a radar coverage for a hurricane or storms or anything.
Oh, it's unnecessary.
Yes, this radar is unnecessary. It's just these folks here, and I got that since my wife and I moved here. It's like they've got this one-upmanship between, I'm from this network, and I was the first one to give this type of an alert. And that's the thing. They dance around the words watch and warnings, and they use advisories and alerts and things that they can sort of keep their stuff out of trouble, if you will. And that's
I don't know if Paulette is still on the line from the Pine Island Eagle, but would you be willing to do an interview with Paulette?
Sure.
Are you online, Paulette?
She was a minute ago, but
She's still here.
Yeah, I'm here.
oh, there you are.
There you are.
I'm recording everything. And I was hoping you were going to ask him because you never got back to me today about whether or not he'd be interested in interviewing.
Right.
Okay.
Yep. His number.
My wife and I are traveling. We're homeless because we sold our home in St. James. And so we're staying with relatives, but our intent is to build a home, and we're actually in the process of doing that. However, we're up in the Panhandle right now, staying with relatives, and my wife just got bad news last week that she needs a hip replacement. So
oh boy,
it's for us to use a weather
Weather doesn't help with that.
So we're running back and forth between Southwest Florida because she's going to have it there, and where we're staying with relatives. So I would offer my assistance and my help and
As best
expertise
you
in
can.
any way as best I can. But I can't promise my availability at the drop of a hat. So I hope that's understood. But I'd be
Mike, are
glad.
you available tomorrow morning to talk to Paulette?
No, as a matter of fact, tomorrow we're leaving from we're
Panhandle.
Yeah, we're near Pensacola, and we're driving 10 hours to get back down to a doctor's appointment for my wife. So like tomorrow's not a good day.
Paulette, why don't I give you his contact information? You can contact Mike directly, and I'll do the same for you, Mike, so I don't have to be in the middle of it. And Mike Sweeney, there's a PowerPoint presentation I did last month on this, very detailed, and it was done on purpose. So it was kind of a leave behind and read, not have to present. That addresses some of your questions. And if you shoot me your email address, I have a couple more pieces of info I can shoot to you on background on it.
That sounds great.
You
Thank
saw the contact info in the presentation. I think, Nadine, that'll be posted today. I mean, tonight's presentation will also be posted.
Yep, as soon as you send it to me.
I did.
Well, when did you send it?
An hour ago.
Oh, okay.
Just in case we had problems. Yeah, sorry. Just in case we had screen problems or whatever, I sent it to you.
Got it. Okay, I didn't see that yet, but yeah, I'll get that posted.
You're busy moderating the meeting.
Yeah, right.
With
And
Helen.
I'll send out a summary of today's meeting to all of our members and people who receive our emails, and send them a link to it too, so they'll have that information.
Yeah, and my
Could
wife.
you also send all of us, the board members, Mike Sweeney's contact information, please?
Yeah,
If I've got it, if not, I know Scott does.
Scott has it.
Yeah, we'll get that out.
Scott has my information.
Yeah. Okay.
I
All
just
right.
to say also, my wife Lisa's helped a lot, with the health issues and the ads and things like that. So I'll publicly thank her for her support too.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Well, I'm gonna ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So move, says Claudia, who's muted. All right, everybody. Thanks again for
good
joining
night.
us, and we'll have the meeting up online in a couple of days. So you can feel free to share it around, and you can let people know that they can page through to Jeff's presentation.
And this may be out of line, and this might not be even appropriate, but you had this guy Jesse Lavender here this evening. Is there any way that we could buy him a gift card or something like that, and just to a Wawa, or I don't know, maybe that's not something you do, but these people are taking their time, and I guess it's part of their job, but it's also it would be a nice thing to, I don't know.
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, typically we've only given maybe one honorarium to a speaker that I can remember since I've been on the board. And I'm pretty sure I'm the one who.
I didn't know how that worked, but yeah.
Yeah,
We usually
so
send them
we could talk about it as a board. I'm not sure a county official or a county staff person would be allowed to accept that. But certainly some of our other speakers might be able to.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Helen.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Welcome.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.